Chapter 1 The Vanishing. The throne room of the Vampire King was built to intimidate. Jagged black stone spires stretched into the ceiling, crimson torches hissed in sconces, and banners soaked in ancient blood hung like warning signs to trespassers. The air itself smelled of iron and cold. It was a hall meant to make lesser beings kneel. Tonight, however, the king paced the floor like a parent who'd lost track of his kids at a mall. "My sons," he growled, voice low enough to shake dust from the rafters. His cloak swirled, shadow licking the floor like spilled ink. "Vanished. My blood. My heirs. Gone." Around him, the court whispered. Not in sympathy, no, fear and amusement mingled too easily. Watching an immortal tyrant unravel had a strange entertainment value. The lyre and lizard envoy flicked his tail with mock concern. Perhaps they merely wandered off? Younglings are known to be curious. The squid-like Zilthi ambassador twirled her tendrils and muttered, "Curious?" They disappeared from a locked chamber, past 6 armed guards, in the middle of a coronation rehearsal. Curious doesn't cover it. At the far wall, a rodent alien wrung his claws together and squeaked nervously. Majesty, maybe they were abducted." The king stopped pacing. His eyes, red as burning coals, raked across the court. If so, the thief will learn what it means to steal from House Draw. A tremor of silence spread. Everyone knew what that meant: planets burned, fleets torn apart, endless vengeance. Then the double doors creaked open. 2 small figures stumbled inside, tiny capes dragging on the floor, pale faces lit by mischievous grins. The princes. His sons. Perfect little fanged copies of their father. But they weren't alone. Walking between them was a man who looked painfully ordinary. Dark suit, clean shave, brown hair combed neatly. He carried no weapons, no glowing devices, no hint of menace. The boys clung to his hands as though he were a long-lost uncle. The humans smiled at the gathered council. Not a predator's smile. A polite, almost apologetic grin, the kind one wore when arriving late to dinner. "Evening," he said casually. "I believe these belong to you?" The Vampire King froze. For the first time in centuries, he looked uncertain. The chamber erupted in shouts. "Impossible," hissed the Zilthi ambassador. "Security breach," barked the Lyran envoy. "Who let that in here?" squealed the rodent alien. The human didn't flinch. He gave a little half-bow, one hand still holding the prince's. "Elias Wren. Diplomatic liaison, Earth delegation." He tapped the side of his temple where a tiny insignia gleamed. "Credentials filed, paperwork signed, all proper. I assure you I didn't bite anyone." The princes giggled. One of them added, "He taught us jokes." The king's voice was a thunderclap. "Explain." "Now." Elias's smile never faltered. "I found your heirs wandering near the gardens. Thought it best to bring them back before anyone panicked." He shrugged lightly. "Though, judging from the atmosphere, I might have been too late on that front." The squid ambassador's tendrils snapped in irritation. "How did you get past locked doors and 6 armed guards?" "Doors were open," Elias said simply. "As for the guards, well, children can be persuasive." The princes nodded vigorously. "We told them he was nice." Gasps rippled through the chamber. The Vampire King's sons, the terror of 10 star systems to be, vouching for a human? The king's gaze narrowed. "Why would my heirs trust you?" Elias tilted his head, as if pondering the question himself. Then he leaned down slightly toward the boys. "Care to tell him?" The older prince piped up. "He doesn't shout." The younger added, "And he has stories." "About dinosaurs." "Dinosaurs," Elias confirmed with a straight face. Very big teeth. Quite a few parallels with your people, Majesty. The king's lip curled, though whether in amusement or insult was unclear. The court was restless now, caught between outrage and curiosity. Aliens traded whispers. Humans? Weren't they supposed to be primitive? Weren't they fragile? Why was this one so calm in a chamber designed to break lesser beings? The Lyran envoy hissed. You expect us to believe you simply found them? Humans are tricksters, always hiding behind jokes and stories. Elias's eyes twinkled. Guilty as charged. But then, aren't all diplomats? The squid ambassador slammed a tendril on the marble floor. Enough games. Humans are insignificant. You are out of your depth. Elias's grin widened a fraction, sharp but polite. Insignificant. Of course. Just as a match is insignificant, until you drop it in a forest. The words hung in the air, deceptively light yet carrying an edge no one missed. The vampire king descended the stairs from his throne, cloak dragging like liquid shadow. He loomed over Elias, towering, fangs gleaming. If you deceived me, if you manipulated my bloodline, I will tear you apart piece by piece. Elias looked up, unflinching. His voice dropped softer, silkier. Majesty, if I were deceiving you, do you really think your sons would still be holding my hands? The princes tightened their grip, as though daring anyone to pry them away. A ripple of unease coursed through the room. For a long moment, nothing stirred but the torches. Then the king drew back, not conceding but not striking either. His eyes burned with calculation. You are bold, human. Occupational hazard, Elias replied lightly. We have a saying on Earth, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with coffee. Coffee, the rodent alien squeaked. Bitter, black, addictive, Elias explained. Great for negotiations. Terrible for sleep. He reached into his coat and produced a silver flask. Would anyone care for a demonstration? Half the court recoiled as if he'd pulled out a weapon. The princes, however, perked up immediately. Can we have some? Not until you're a bit older, Elias said with a wink. The human had the room in his palm, and everyone knew it. The king returned to his throne, cloak snapping. He sat heavily, staring at Elias with a predator's patience. You walk freely in my court, with my sons at your side, and you speak as though we are equals. That is a dangerous delusion. Elias clasped his hands behind his back, posture perfectly polite. Dangerous? Undoubtedly. A delusion? Time will tell. The silence that followed was colder than stone. The princes climbed up onto their father's throne dais, whispering excitedly about Earth games and stories. The court simmered with outrage, suspicion, and, just faintly, fear. Only Elias seemed comfortable. His eyes glimmered with a private thought, a calculation no one else could read. He bent down, whispering to the princes. His lips barely moved, voice low enough that only the children heard. Time to start phase 2. The boys giggled again. The king leaned forward sharply. What did you say? Elias straightened, his smile returning, smooth and unbothered. Merely a story cue, Majesty. Children like chapters. Keeps them entertained. But the court had heard enough to know, whatever game was being played, the human wasn't just a bystander. He was the one setting the board. Chapter 2, the court interrogation. The council chamber stank of suspicion. The vampire king's throne loomed above, sons perched beside him like restless shadows, while the gathered envoys hissed and muttered in a dozen alien dialects. All eyes fixed on Elias Wren. He stood calmly at the center, straight-backed, hands folded neatly as if he were about to deliver a lecture on gardening. The Zilthi squid ambassador's tendrils writhed. This is unacceptable. A human wandering freely in the palace? Holding royal airs as though they were toys? Elias inclined his head politely. I assure you, Madam Ambassador, I am terrible with toys. Always lose the instructions. Murmurs rippled. Was he joking, or was it an insult? The lizard envoy bared sharp teeth. Do not mock us, ape. Elias raised a palm. Mockery? Perish the thought. I'm merely suggesting that children, like diplomats, thrive without strict instructions. Improvisation keeps things interesting. The Vampire King's crimson gaze locked onto him. You speak lightly, but light words do not hide intent. My sons trusted you within hours. That is no accident. What did you do to them? The princes beamed, answering before Elias could. He told us stories. About humans fighting giant lizards. And about space rockets. The court exchanged baffled looks. The mighty heirs of Drawl, enthralled by bedtime tales. Elias adjusted his cufflink. Children enjoy imagination. Nothing sinister about storytelling, Majesty. Unless your laws prohibit fairy tales? The rodent envoy squeaked, voice trembling. Humans, they twist words. Always twisting. Perhaps this one bewitched them. Elias chuckled softly. Bewitched? No. We've tried witchcraft. Doesn't scale well. Bureaucracy's worse than yours. A few aliens snorted to spite themselves, though quickly stifled it. The king leaned forward, voice low and dangerous. I do not tolerate games. Your kind is insignificant. Fragile. A single claw could end you. Elias met his gaze evenly. True. Fragile bones, soft skin, no fangs or claws. We bruise like peaches. His smile sharpened. And yet here I am, standing before immortals, unbroken. Curious, isn't it? The chamber went still. The squid ambassador hissed. Humans exaggerate their importance. I have studied Earth. A minor world. Divided, chaotic, still arguing over who invented the sandwich. Elias brightened. Ah yes, the sandwich wars. Brutal. Centuries of casualties, all over bread placement. He leaned in slightly. We're very good at fighting over small things. Imagine what happens when the stakes are large. The rodent envoy swallowed audibly. The vampire princes tugged at their father's cloak. He's funny, father. Let him stay. The king's expression did not soften. His voice, however, gained an edge of curiosity beneath the anger. Tell me, human, why are you truly here? Elias clasped his hands behind his back, adopting the tone of a man delivering a casual lecture. Earth was invited to the council, was it not? We come in peace, to learn, to share. We bring nothing but goodwill and perhaps a few cultural exports. Coffee, for example. He unscrewed the silver flask and poured a small stream into a porcelain cup retrieved from his case. The aroma drifted across the hall. Bitter, rich, intoxicating. The lizard envoy recoiled. What is that? Civilization in liquid form, Elias replied. Brewed despair with hints of hope. Humans drink it daily. Keeps us awake long enough to make poor decisions. The squid ambassador's tendrils twitched. It smells violent. Accurate, Elias said. Care to try? The rodent envoy, against all wisdom, stepped forward. He sipped. His eyes bulged. His tail shot straight. It burns. Elias patted his back. Yes, it does that. Don't worry, the shaking will subside in a few hours. The council erupted in alarm, accusing murmurs flying. Elias merely refilled his cup. The king raised a hand, silencing the uproar. Enough theatrics. You arrive with charm, you sway children with stories, you poison envoys with your drink. Where are you hiding? Elias studied his reflection in the dark coffee. When he looked up, the humor hadn't left his eyes, but something colder lurked beneath. Majesty, if humanity hides anything, it is only because truth unsettles people. The lizard envoy sneered. Then enlighten us. What truth? Elias's voice softened, every syllable deliberate. That we are not supposed to be here. By every metric, humans should have died long ago. No claws, no scales, no wings, no venom. Yet we endured ice ages, plagues, wars, and our own stupidity. We endured because we learned to think sideways. To smile while sharpening the knife. A silence spread across the hall like a stain. The vampire princes stared up at him wide-eyed. The rodent envoy trembled harder. Even the king did not immediately respond. The squid ambassador finally hissed, empty words. Survival is not power. Elias tilted his head, voice dry. Tell that to the dinosaurs. The chamber froze. What, are dinosaurs? The lizard envoy asked warily. Creatures far bigger, stronger, faster than us, Elias said. They ruled our planet for millions of years. Then they didn't. And here we are, tiny, fragile humans, sipping coffee on their graves. The king's voice was gravel. You claim much for a species that bleeds so easily. Elias smiled faintly. Exactly. We bleed easily. And still, no one has finished us off. Ask yourself why. The question lingered like smoke, coiling into every corner. The princes whispered excitedly about dinosaurs. The council shifted uneasily. Even the king seemed thoughtful. Finally, he spoke, measured and cold. If your words are more than just human, then your kind is dangerous. Elias raised his cup in salute. At last, a compliment. The king's glare burned. If I find you have ensnared my sons, there will be no sanctuary in this galaxy. Do you understand? Elias's tone dropped to velvet. Perfectly. But, Majesty, do you understand that you've already been playing on our board since I arrived? The words sliced sharper than any blade. The council erupted again, but the king remained still, studying Elias as though peering into an abyss. The princes clung to the human's sides, smiling innocently. Elias took another sip of coffee, unhurried. His eyes glinted over the rim. Shall we proceed to the real discussion, he asked softly, or continue pretending this is about bedtime stories? Chapter 3, The Trap. The council chamber had grown colder. Torches sputtered, shadows clawed across the walls. Every envoy leaned forward as though waiting for the human to crack. Elias Wren did not crack. He stood at ease, sipping coffee like a tourist at a museum, while suspicion thickened around him. The vampire king finally broke the silence. You claim no deception. Yet my sons cling to you like hatchlings. Why? The princes answered before Elias could. He listens. He plays games with us. And he said we don't need to be scary all the time. Gasps rippled. Heirs of Drawl admitting they preferred play to terror? Unthinkable. The squid ambassador hissed, he has clouded their minds. The lizard envoy spat, sorcery, manipulation, humans are tricksters. Elias lifted a brow. If I bewitched them, wouldn't they obey me? They're not obeying. They're laughing. The king's eyes glowed. You presume to lecture me on my own bloodline? Elias's voice softened, not mocking but patient, almost teacherly. No, Majesty. I'm reminding you that children choose who they trust. And they chose me. That frightens you more than any spell ever could." The court hissed, scandalized. But the princes only smiled wider, leaning against the human's legs as if he were a shield. The rodent envoy's whiskers twitched nervously. Humans are clever liars. Always smiling, always distracting. Dangerous smiles. Elias chuckled quietly. Funny thing about smiles. On Earth, we use them for everything: apologies, threats, negotiations. Half the time, people don't even know what they mean. Keeps everyone guessing. The king's voice rumbled. Then what does your smile mean, human? Elias's grin faded into something thin and deliberate. It means the game is already underway. The words sliced through the chamber like a blade. The envoys erupted, demanding explanations, some calling for his arrest. The king raised a hand and the hall fell silent again. "Speak plainly," he commanded. "What game?" Elias set his empty cup aside and folded his hands. His tone was calm, but his eyes carried weight now. Gone was the playful sparkle, replaced with sharp intent. "Humanity has always been underestimated," he said. "It's our greatest weapon. No claws, no fangs, no fire from our throats. So others dismiss us. That mistake has ended empires before." The squid ambassador barked a laugh, though it trembled. "Bluster? Nothing more." Elias tilted his head. "You've studied Earth, haven't you? You saw our wars. Our survival through famine, plagues, and disasters. Yet we endured. Why? Because we plan. Because we adapt. Because we set traps so patiently that when they snap shut, no one remembers the bait." The chamber fell utterly still. The princes looked up at him with bright curiosity. "Is that what we're doing now? A trap?" The king's claws clenched. "Answer them." Elias crouched to meet the prince's eyes, voice low but audible to all. "Yes. You vanished because I let you vanish. You followed because I wanted you to follow. Not to harm you, but to see how long it would take your father's court to realize a human was leading them by the hand." The boys grinned, delighted. The council recoiled. The lizard envoy snarled. "You dare use royal heirs as pawns?" Elias straightened smoothly. "Pawns? No. More like proof. Proof that humanity can walk into the heart of power and move pieces without lifting a sword." The king rose from his throne, shadows whipping like storm clouds. "Why reveal this now? What is your aim?" Elias's smile returned, cold but polite. "Because now you're listening. Until today, you dismissed Earth. Primitive. Chaotic. Harmless. Now you've seen, harmless is the mask." The squid ambassador snapped. "You think yourself predators? You are prey dressed in suits." Elias's tone sharpened, polite veneer edged with steel. "Prey doesn't build weapons that scar the sky. Prey doesn't turn entire continents into graveyards and keep walking forward. Prey doesn't outlast monsters bigger, faster, stronger. Humanity is what happens when prey learns to think like hunters." The rodent envoy squeaked, backing away. The princes clapped their hands together. "Tell them the dinosaur story again." Elias laughed softly. "Perhaps later. Right now, we're playing a different game." The king's cloak swirled as he stepped closer. "If this is a trap, as you say, then what is the snare? What do you seek to catch?" Elias's gaze locked with his. "Not catch. Measure." "Measure?" "How you react when humans stop smiling." The chamber shivered with that sentence. The envoys whispered furiously. Some demanded immediate execution, others cautioned restraint. Fear had crept in now, tangled with outrage. The squid ambassador lashed out, voice shrill. This is proof enough, humans are a threat. We should purge them before they spread. Elias turned to her, expression mild. If that were possible, it would have been done already. You think your kind discovered us first? No. We let ourselves be found. The silence that followed was suffocating. The vampire king studied him with new eyes, no longer as an insect, but as something else, something uncertain. You speak boldly for a fragile species, he said slowly. Perhaps too boldly. Elias inclined his head. Boldness keeps us alive. We gamble because the universe stacked the deck against us. And more often than not, we win. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, innocuous object, a carved wooden knight from a chess set. He set it on the marble floor between them. Every empire thinks it is the king, Elias said softly. But kings fall. Knights endure. They move in ways no one predicts. The princes crouched down, fascinated by the tiny piece. The envoys stared at it as though it were a weapon. The king's voice was low, dangerous. If humanity is playing this game, what is your next move? Elias's smile curved, calm and chilling all at once. That depends on you, Majesty. Do you treat us as pawns to crush, or as players at the same table? The question hung in the chamber like smoke, heavier than the stone walls. The vampire princes clutched the little knight between their claws, grinning with the excitement only children felt. To them, it was a toy. To their father's court, it was a declaration. Elias folded his hands behind his back again, the picture of patience. Choose carefully. Some games only end when the board is ash. Chapter 4, The Breaking Point. The marble floor of the throne room gleamed beneath torchlight, but the air felt heavy, brittle, as though the entire chamber balanced on the edge of a blade. Elias Wren stood calmly, hands behind his back, while the vampire king loomed above him, eyes burning like coals. Enough riddles, the king said, his voice a storm. If this is a trap, spring it. Show us the snare. The envoys erupted in arguments. The lizard envoy demanded Elias be chained, the squid ambassador screeched for extermination, the rodent envoy whimpered about retreat. Elias exhaled as though bored by the noise. You creatures have such faith in volume. On Earth, we call it politics. The princes laughed. No one else did. The king's claws flex. Do not test me, human. Elias raised his chin. Majesty, you think you're testing me. The truth? I've been testing you. All of you. The squid ambassador spat, arrogance, and lunged forward, tendrils lashing. Elias didn't move. A faint shimmer cut the air, and suddenly the squid froze mid-strike. Every envoy stiffened as a soundless vibration pulsed through the chamber. Above the palace roof, invisible until now, ships decloaked. Dozens of sleek human vessels hung in formation, silent predators in the void. Their hulls bore no sigils, no flamboyant markings, just matte black surfaces that swallowed light. Gasps tore through the council. The rodent envoy shrieked, "They've been here the whole time." Elias's smile returned, polite as ever. Of course. You don't announce a trap before it closes. The princes clapped their hands in delight. Spaceships. The king rose to his full height, cloak whipping like a storm cloud. You dare place warships over my palace? Elias's voice stayed calm. Not warships. Observers. Humanity doesn't start fights. We finish them. The lizard envoy hissed, trembling. This is conquest. Elias chuckled. Conquest? No. Think of it as a demonstration. We wanted to see how long it would take before someone noticed the shadows in orbit. Congratulations, you lasted 12 hours. The chamber erupted into chaos again, but Elias spoke over them, voice slicing clean. You all see humanity as fragile. Pink skin, soft bones, too easy to break. But you missed the point. We've survived because we are fragile. We adapt. We trick. We endure. And when we strike, it isn't with claws or fangs. He gestured upward. It's with preparation. The princes tugged his sleeve. Are we winning? Elias crouched briefly, smiling at them. We're not playing to win. We're playing to teach. They grinned, satisfied. The king's gaze smoldered. You manipulate my heirs, parade your fleet above my world, and speak of teaching? You risk annihilation. Elias stood again, eyes sharp. Majesty, if we wanted annihilation, your sky would already be fire. This isn't invasion. It's introduction. The squid ambassador shrieked, lies. Humans crave conquest. Elias tilted his head. Conquest is messy. Wasteful. We prefer strategy. See, we don't want your throne or your fleets. We want something far simpler, recognition. The lizard envoy snarled, recognition is what? Elias's voice dropped, velvet edged with steel. As predators. Not pawns. Not prey. Equals at the table, or nightmares in your history books. Your choice. For the first time, fear spread openly across the envoys' faces. The rodent envoy collapsed to his knees. The squid slithered back, tendrils curling in defense. Even the lizard envoy's scales trembled faintly. Only the vampire king remained steady. His gaze flicked from Elias to the princes, who held the wooden chess knight between them like treasure. You think I will bow, he said slowly. Elias shook his head. Not bow. Decide. Humanity has walked into your court, unarmed, smiling, holding your children's hands. We showed you weakness, and you mistook it for truth. That mistake ends tonight. The king's shadows writhed across the floor. If I say no? Elias smiled faintly. Then Phase 3 begins. Outside, the human ships shifted formation, hulls glinting as their weapons hummed awake. The vibration resonated through the chamber, low and steady, like a drumbeat. The princes gasped, thrilled by the spectacle. To them, it was fireworks. To everyone else, it was doom hanging in orbit. The lizard envoy shrieked, "This is blackmail." Diplomacy with teeth, Elias corrected. The king stepped closer, towering over him. Why my sons? Why involve them? Elias's tone softened. Because they're the future. They still laugh. They still choose. Adults calcify into fear. Children adapt. They trusted me first, that tells me everything I need to know about your empires tomorrow. The king studied his heirs. They beamed back at him, holding the night peace. For the first time, something unreadable flickered in his expression. Elias pressed the moment. You can resist humanity, fight us, waste centuries bleeding each other dry. Or, you can teach your heirs a different path. One where predators recognize predators and keep the galaxy balanced instead of burning it. The squid ambassador screeched again, unable to accept it. They are liars. They will consume us all. Elias finally let his smile drop. His voice turned cold, stripped of charm. We don't need to consume you. You'll do it to yourselves. Humanity just accelerates the process. That silenced even her. The king's cloak settled around him. His voice, when it came, was low but steady. You are bold beyond reason, human. But boldness is not power. Elias's eyes glittered. It is when boldness is backed by ships. The chamber pulsed again as the vessels overhead adjusted position. The message was clear: every envoy in the room was one order away from ashes. The king's gaze locked with Elias's. Neither blinked. At last, the Vampire King spoke. "Very well. You've made your point. Humanity sits at the table. But know this, if you betray us, no corner of the stars will shield you." Elias inclined his head. "Understood. And if you betray us, no corner will hide you." The words were polite, but the undertone was pure threat. The council dissolved into uneasy murmurs. Some envoys bowed their heads, others stared in horror. The princes tugged their father's cloak, whispering about dinosaurs and knights. Above, the human fleet dimmed its weapons but did not leave. Silent guardians. Silent warnings. Elias picked up his empty cup, as though the evening had been nothing more than a long conversation. He looked to the king one final time. "Congratulations, Majesty. You survived Phase 2. He tucked the chess piece into his pocket. "Now, who's ready for Phase 3? The chamber trembled, not from weapons fire, but from the weight of the unspoken truth. Humanity was no longer the underestimated stranger. Humanity had become the shadow every empire would fear.